We can't hear you. Can you hear me, by the way? Okay. That's not...
I don't know. Is it? You hear me now? Lovely. All right. It's not a conference without a glitch, right? So welcome everybody, Meltem, Omkar, Omino, and Barry, and we had one or two other guests. Maybe they'll join us shortly. I'm not sure. Welcome one and all. And before we start, I want to say a huge thank you to the GatherVerse community for the honor of hosting this panel, and to you as guests for joining us. I'm really excited about the conversation we're about to have and where it goes and where it takes us. And I've hugely been enjoying the other talks just now. I was listening to the AI conversation. I'm going to pick up on that in just a moment. So here we are. And the title of our panel is, I'm just going to bring this up, is The Battle for the Classroom. Sounds rather ominous. Sounds like there's dark clouds gathering and we have to win the war like in Lord of the Rings or something like that. I'm just going to set the frame a little bit and we're going to jump straight in. I wanted to reframe the conversation a little bit. The battle for the classroom. Yeah, I suppose with all the disruption going on, it can seem like a battle, but I really want to focus on the opportunities in the classrooms, because I believe there really are some. There's the famous Chinese saying that every crisis is also an opportunity. So I want to focus a little bit on that today. And then the other thing I wanted to pull out on the title was, let me just see, it says about a panel on technology and education. So technology is very, very, very broad. For me, technology starts with a pencil and a piece of paper. That's technology, right up to artificial intelligence. So I want to steer our conversation a little bit towards the more emerging reality technologies, XR, AI, but still also the internet. I think the internet is new enough for more than half of the planet, right? People here on this panel, I imagine we have good access, good internet, good broadband. Most of the people on this planet do not have that. A lot of people don't have clean drinking water. And so we have to remember that spectrum of technology. And when we're talking about new technologies, we have to remember that the internet still hasn't arrived for most people on the planet. So let's keep that in mind. And then the last word I want to pull up is the classroom. So the title is The Battle for the Classroom. By that, I mean, learning again is a spectrum. Learning takes place everywhere. But I think we should concentrate on formal education. And I want to pick up just briefly on what Dulce Baerga said about remembering that our current educational paradigm is still a paradigm of the 20th century. And that now we are entering the territory where we're ready for a paradigm shift. So we're going to get into all of that good stuff. One other thing I want to throw into this mix, I've got a challenge for you guys. I hope you're up for this. What I'd like to do is I'm going to do some quick fire rounds. So I'm going to challenge you to be really short to start with. And I'm going to make some notes and then I'm going to come back round and dig in a little bit deeper, if that's okay. So here we go. I'm going to give you each 1 minute on the following question, give you a moment to think about it. So what's the greatest opportunity right now in the classroom when we're talking about these new emerging reality technologies? What's the greatest opportunity in the classroom right now, as you see it, when we're talking about technology? And I'm going to give you a minute. And when the minute's up, I'm going to thank you visually like this so that you know the time's up. We're going to go to the next one. We're going to quick fire round, and then I'll come back round and dig in a little bit deeper with that. You all up for this? Excellent. So we're going to start with Meltem. I know I've put you on the spot, but Meltem, what's the greatest opportunity for you?
Well, technology with this industrial revolution periods, starting with the 1.0, 2.0, 3 and today with 4.0, there is a kind of industrial revolution, and in parallel, there is an education 4.0 period now we are in. So this means that there are many technologies, like immersive technologies, we call them today, virtual reality, augmented reality, AI, ChatGPTs, many technologies, okay, we have. So technology is evolving, okay, every day we start a day with a new kind of technological, let's say, development. There are piles and piles of web tools, many tools to be used, but they are to be used, we are saying. So technology is there. Okay, we have an audience, they are called Z generation today. This Z generation are typically, they are very different from the earlier generations. I am one of the researchers also. I'm working on this Z generation. Also, we have Z generation in our homes, so we know them very well, their characteristics. Sorry, Daniel, I can hear you.
Back into the, oh, thank you very much. I'm going to come back into that. So we've got Education 4.0 and Generation Z. Going to come back into that. Meltem, thank you very much.
Okay.
Omkar, over to you. 1 minute. What is the biggest opportunity for you?
Thank you, Daniel, and it's great to be on this panel. I think the biggest opportunity with the technology of today in the classrooms of today is to transform the classrooms of today into classrooms of tomorrow. And this can be done by transforming classrooms into interactive exhibitions or into science labs, where maybe science labs are not available due to lack of equipment, lack of material, lack of infrastructure, lack of trained personnel. And I think technology like mixed reality, artificial intelligence can change all of that for billions of people around the world. And I think, as someone who comes from a science background, I think building that scientific mindset is the only way to sort of create this domino effect of creating more technology that can transform education even more exponentially as we go deeper into these spaces. So I would say that's the biggest opportunity. Maybe that's
Fantastic.
within a minute.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're perfectly on time. Thank you so much. Excellent. Well done. Thank you. I wasn't sure whether the mic was working. Excellent. Thank you. I've made some notes about that. Scientific mindset and transforming the classroom into of tomorrow by using exhibitions. We'll get into that good stuff. Omino, what's the greatest opportunity from your perspective in the classroom with these new technologies? Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. I think, to me, it's personalized learning. It's really the best way to really think about this is that we can really cater to each individual learner's ability to learn, and the teacher and the educator will be able to personalize it exactly to the mood, to the methodology that actually sinks in the best and fits them exactly as they are, rather than asking them to be something else or trying to copycat what may or may not be relevant to them. I think it's completely about personalization.
Fantastic. You finished earlier. Nice and succinct. I love it. Thank you, Omino. I've got personalized learning. It's really nice and succinct. And we've got Dr. B joining us as well. I'll be right with you, Dr. B. We're doing a quick fire round. I'm going to come to Barry and back to you, Dr. B. So thank you for that. We've got some great contributions so far. We're going to dig in a little bit deeper in a moment. Barry, what is the greatest opportunity as you see it for the classroom with regards to emerging reality technologies?
Thank you, Daniel, and good evening from Dublin, Ireland. It's a real pleasure and privilege to be here and speak with everyone this evening. I think this is a huge opportunity to look at existing educational environments and digital twin them, and digital twinning of these very important structures offers learners from other regions the opportunity to take part in learning that might be happening in the other side of the world. So with immersive technology such as VR, I think we already have that. And I think to some degree, we as educators are scrambling to catch up with it and figure out how we can be educators on these platforms and connect to an increasingly digitalized young people, generation of young people, but also looking and examining historically overlooked and excluded learners, and seeing how we can include them into this into these conversations.
Excellent, Barry. Thank you very much. I've got some great notes there. Just making a final note. And Dr. B, you missed the beginning, but I'll catch you up. What I'm doing is I'm getting just a minute from each of you on what you think is the greatest opportunity for technology in the classroom, and specifically the newer types of technologies. And then I'm going to come back around and dig in. And I hope also you're listening to each other. So having heard those 1 minute short sound bites, you can pick up on your own threads and we can have a nice conversation there. So Dr. B, you have a minute. What is the greatest opportunity as you see it for emerging reality technologies in the classroom?
The greatest opportunity as I see it is the opportunity to transform the way that we educate in the first place. Number one, to transform the way we think about education. It doesn't have to be a battle for the classroom. We can simply transform the energy of the classroom. It's about us becoming the change that we want to see, essentially, and really getting people to look deep within. The word university and education is very deep, actually. It goes back to the individual. And I think instead of creating learning environments that are cookie cutter, we can start creating environments that are specific to the learner. And that is one of the things that even AI technology brings us to. So we have an opportunity to grow and transform.
Fantastic. That from my own heart, Dr. B. We at Educators in VR have a community of several thousand educators from around the world who are sharing, collaborating, and out all together. So feel free to join the community over there as well. Quick fire round, greatest opportunities, and I'm going to give you a moment just to process what you've heard and maybe prepare some comments about that. I'm going to dig a little bit deeper in a moment. But Dr. B, I agree. You missed this, but I had actually read a conversation in the classroom to what is the opportunity in the classroom. So we're speaking the same language there. Back in 2019, I was invited to a conference in Amsterdam to speak on education. Oh, people dropping out. Is that just the title of the presentation I gave was Perfect Storm, Education Perfect Storm in the Classroom. My argument was back in 2019, when virtual reality and 5G and AI, when they all collide, all that and can you still hear me okay now? Are we all back?
Daniel, we cannot hear you.
We couldn't get the last words of you. Only now I can hear you.
Yeah, okay. I couldn't hear anybody else either. Is it better now?
Now it is better for me.
Now it's better. Okay, well, we had a break just at the right time. To recap, I gave a talk in 2019 in Amsterdam called The Perfect Storm in the Classroom, talking about how this was in 2019, and I was saying that when virtual reality, artificial intelligence, and 5G, when they all collide, we'll have a perfect storm. And here we are, beginning 2023, and yeah, it's very choppy in the classrooms now. So I want to pick up on what some of you said, and I'm going to I might jump around a little bit. So I started with Melton. I'm going to give you a little bit longer to expand on what you were saying about generationally and education 4.0. And just before you start, Meltem, I do want to again point out that yes, we have Generation Z and Education 4.0, but again, some areas in the UK and in Europe and in the US, in developed continents, let's say, don't have 4.0. They still have Education 2.0 or 1.0. So it's a spectrum. But over to you, Meltem.
Yeah. Yes, you're right. Not every country can have this opportunities to reach this 4.0 technologies, let's say, these immersive technologies. But this doesn't change the fact that the new generation is new generations. They are Z generation. And most of them are, they were born into a world of technology. This smartphone technology, at least, they have in their hands, and it changed their world completely. So these generation students are very different. I mean, they want to learn actively. Okay, they want to be fully adapted into the learning process. They want to work on projects that will prepare them for life. They want to. They like to be, were using these technological tools as much as they could at their disposal, let's say. So these students are somehow different. They are called digital natives, They are digital natives. We are digital immigrants. We are somehow had a kind of technological, use these technologies somehow in our daily lives, in our businesses. Okay, but these kids, let's say these Z generation individuals, they were born into this technological world, and they can use it much better than us. And somehow they want to be all exposed to these technologies in their education when they are learning as well. Is it the end of my time, or can I go on? I want to be use it very
no, that's okay. Thank you for that. So they want the technology.
Yes,
I'm gonna thank you for that, Meltem. Yeah, thank you.
Because they are digital natives.
Do you?
Yeah.
Digital natives. Yeah.
Yeah.
Over to you, do you agree with Meltem? They want the technology, therefore they should have it. And if you want to respond to that briefly, and then expand on your own points as well.
I think I would wholeheartedly agree with Meltem on this topic. Gen Z, of course, has grown up with this kind of technology. I'm going to take it one step forward, and I'm going to add that Gen Alpha, the next generation, these people have grown up with even more technology. Like they were using tablets and mobile devices before they were speaking. So I think that probably is the biggest paradigm shift in how humans transmit knowledge, right? I think if humans have started to transmit knowledge via digital devices before being able to speak, as has been the traditional way for millions of, tens of thousands of years, I think that marks a very big shift. And I think we don't maybe pay attention to it as much, that if that's how Gen Z and Gen Alpha more specifically are growing up, what does it mean for how we teach them and how they are to build for the generation beta, whatever else comes next? And I think and to sort of double down on what Meltem added, that they want this. They do want this. Like I've spoken to so many people who are like 13 to 15 now. And these folks, they're sleeping in the classroom because the classroom is not using the tools and methods that attracts them and engages them. The classroom today is losing in the attention economy. Like we can't control it, unfortunately. And today's generation is bombarded with a lot of things. It is a large responsibility and a large shift that educators have, to make in order to sort of be able to at least compete in the attention economy of today. And that's where technology comes in, right? And it doesn't have to be this or that. It can be, augmenting the older methods that have worked well, but sort of supercharging them, like adding superpowers to educators and the education methods that have worked well. That's how I would see the
I was just,
amalgamation of these two
yeah,
words.
thank you, Omkar. Thank you, Omkar. I was just going to ask whether we, as educators, we need to keep the balance between embracing the new and navigating the new, whilst bringing with us of the old and the original.
For sure.
Dr. B, you're raising your hand.
Yes, I'm raising my hand.
I missed that. Say again, sorry.
I said, yes, I'm raising my
Yeah.
hand.
Over to you, Dr. B.
As an educator, I've educated adult learners. Can you hear me okay? Is my signal good? Okay, good. As an educator,
yep,
I've educated adult learners for, oh my goodness, over a decade. And I feel like, yes, we are losing an opportunity, of course, in educating the new generation coming up. And we definitely need to do that. Yet I feel we fail, and this is what I meant by transforming the way that we educate. We fail when we miss out on our older generation and we don't bring them forward, and we don't bring them into the new technology because we don't feel like they have anything to offer to it. And this is very problematic. It's very problematic that we would leave our older generation behind as well. And we need to go back. I know we're always concerned with moving forward and doing all these things, but how many of us are actually using the technology, and how many of us have our own NFTs, and how many of us are active within the Web3 space, and how many of us are actually teaching 40-year-olds and 50-year-olds and 60-year-olds and 70-year-olds how to use this technology and embracing them? It's important that we do both.
Yeah.
You know, we need to bridge the gap in education. There is no bridge.
Very good point, Dr. B. Yeah, it's again, it's a spectrum of what level of access you have. And in preparation for this talk, actually, I was thinking how wonderful it is to have such a gathering of different voices in us. But I was going to shout out to Christopher Lafayette, if you're listening, could we maybe have a panel where we invite youth, like proper young people, you know, maybe accompanied by educators, but have a panel of very young people and have a contribution. And then also, I'm sure we could find some really wise elders who maybe are only just coming to this technology. I know my mentor, Tom Furness, he's neck deep into this technology at 80 years old. But I'm talking about people maybe who just have an outside perspective on it. So, Chris, if you're listening, a youth panel and an elders panel. All right, on you personalized learning. Could you please expand on that? What's the opportunity there?
Yeah, thanks for that, Daniel. I think the opportunity with personalized learning really is what we are talking about, Generation Alpha and Generation Z, and how they're experiencing content just in general around them. As a father of two girls, one in Generation Alpha and one in Generation Z, I can tell you that whatever the school is trying to teach them, they can pretty much search it on their own, on the internet, through their devices. And it's personalized. Their search is basically personalizing it for them. And, you know, we're so shocked by ChatGPT, and really very few people saw this coming. But realistically, this is an optimized search that allows you to, you know, now get some indications and some notes based on that search. It's optimized personalized learning. That's basically what it is. And what Dr. B was saying is that doesn't end in an age group and doesn't start in another one. How do we get this, and how early can we go? I think Generation Alpha and Generation Z are leading the way. Melton pointed to that. I think what I'm saying here, it's a lot about access. You know, we can talk about devices, but until this becomes something ubiquitous, something that many can have access to, and you know, a lot of experience working with the World Bank and in Rwanda and in Ethiopia, and seeing how actually first version of the mobile phone, just purely text messaging, is enabling. It's extremely empowering to see what the opportunity really is. But I think we need to really sort of think about holistically what does education, what type of educations that these type of new learners need, and how do we create a bridge for them? And what are the challenges in between? What do they actually need? I think those are the points that we really need to consider more. And once we've sort of solved that, I think personalizing it becomes a lot more easier. Go ahead.
Thank you, Omino. My question is, though, can we keep up? So if we put our heads together now and decide, our working group, let's try and figure out what our learners need. 6 months, 12 months down the line, has it shifted again? A little bit, to me, it feels like that. I mean, to some degree, there are aspects of learning that don't change. If I was head of curriculum, meditation would be number one on mine, because that doesn't change, like personal engagement. But in terms of jobs of the future, we don't know what the jobs of the future are going to be. How can we decide now about what to teach when we don't know what our kids are going to need? My son, he's 14, he's online schooling. I almost don't know what to do. I mean, sure, we're still going to 20 years, but it's a tricky one. I don't want to hog too much time, because I want to come to Barry, and we'll maybe we'll come back to it. You talk about digitals, remote access, and excluded learners. You want to expand on the use of digital twins a little bit, please?
Sure. Thank you, Daniel. I suppose one fact that kind of jumps out at the page at me at the minute is the fact that Roblox, for example, has almost 60 million daily users. And most of those users are young people, probably between 9 years of age and 13. All right. So I would say that they maybe have accounts of 200 million, and that's just one platform. And it reminds me of, I suppose, a vision in many ways over the last 10 to 15 years working in education here in Ireland. And being a digital artist myself, I was starting to see the disconnect of young people in schools who were starting to kind of look to digital spaces to connect, to play, to create. And traditional school systems, through no fault of their own, were choosing to just shut it down. It's not where we go. It's not good for you. You just need to stop it. And the vision really I had and I still go back to it, would be traditional educators standing at a train platform and a huge freight train going past slowly, with each kind of carriage representing a platform that young people are gravitating towards. And I suppose we're at the stage really collectively as educators, whether we jump on the last remaining kind of carriages or we stay on the platform and let it sail off into the desert, and we lose what we have built over the decades of connecting with young people. So I think it's important. I think, young people are already there basically, and it's more about us kind of looking at where they are and us adjusting how we connect with them, be it hybrid, be it fully digital, be it in person with some digital incorporated. But there seems to be a growing need for a fundamental shift in how we learn and how we teach and how we connect with people going forward.
Thanks, Barry. While I was listening to you there, I was thinking so typically educators are a little bit learners, except I was an adult educator as well, Dr. BH, right? But with Gen Z and Gen Alpha, the educators are a little bit older. How soon are the new educators going to be Gen Z educators who did grow up with this? And so that they're entering the job and the university with the mindset of, I grew up with a mobile phone. I grew up with an AI device. Will we ever catch up again like that? Or will the next generation always be 2 or 3 steps ahead, with the educators not having grown up with the same mindset, always trying to catch up? What do you think, Omka?
I think there are quite a few people from Gen Z who are in the teaching sector right now who are very technologically friendly and are comfortable with using this tech-enabled method. At the same time, I know people who are, I don't want to sound ageist on a live panel, but let's say people who are not from Gen Z and maybe from a different, from an older generation, some of them are also technologically friendly and savvy. And I think it's a question of really being in touch with the people that you're teaching. Like, what has changed in their realities that was not in your reality? I think that sort of that reach out is what is required. I think often educators, it becomes hard for them to sort of make that connection because they're so engrossed in their subject. It often it comes in the way very often, because once you know something, the curse of knowledge kicks in, right? Like, now you can never unknow it anymore. And I think that's something that is crucial to also think about.
Right.
So in short, I would say that it's important to take the educators as a part of this transformation.
I missed the last of that because of audio. Can you say that again, Omkar? Just the last phrase,
Sure,
please?
sure. I just said that I think as a part of this transformation, it is important to take the educators with as well as the students and the learners.
Yes. Okay. Right. Do you think it's going to be a requirement for educators? Like, when I applied for a job in the day, I needed to know Excel and Word, and I needed to have an email back in the day when I was applying for a job. Will a job requirement as an educator now include needing to know certain platforms or technologies to even get the job, Meltem?
Well, I was about to say, we are talking about the technologies, but we shouldn't also forget the pedagogy. Pedagogy also very, very important. I mean, if we can, technology are just tools to help us to teach these kids or these Z-Gen individuals, let's say students, to improve their skills of creativity, critical thinking, problem solving. Okay, these kinds of skills, higher order thinking skills, these tools are there. Technology is there to help us. But which methodology comes first? Because if you don't follow, methodology is the road you take to reach your goal, and on that road, the technology is the car or the machine, yes, you use to reach that goal. Okay, so your methodology, your way of teaching, which techniques, strategies, methods you are going to apply are much more important. Even you have a very simple technology today, if you use the right methodology, you can have a very effective way of teaching. I just wanted to add this. There is a kind of debate going for decades in the field of edtech, education technology, Clark and Cosma debate. This explains us what I mean here. Cosma supports technology. Clark says methodology. If you please have a look at that debate. So it explains, Clark explains what I tell it now very in a very effective way. So I say that as an edtech person, methodology comes prior to technology. I just wanted to add this. I think disconnected again. I hope you heard of me. Okay.
Thank you for that. I hope everyone else. Pedagogy is critical. I agree with you there. I think Dr. B has to say, and then I'm going to come to Omino. Dr. B, over to you.
Yes, I agree with everything that's been said. Spot on. Of course, we need the technology. We need to know the pedagogy. We need the methodology. But before we do all of that, we still need to understand the learner. I've always said, in order to teach anyone anything, you have to reach them first. Who are these people? What are they going to need? What's going to bring them the most value? How do we bring them the most value? Of course, educators, yes, we constantly need education, and we need hands-on education as educators. Yet we need to really understand the people that we're teaching first. You can't teach anyone until you reach them, until you really know what they need and what brings them value. So,
Can I add more something to Dr. B?
Thank you, Dr. B.
Can I add something
Please.
more? In educational,
Yeah,
in instructional design, okay, we have EDI model. It starts with analysis. First, we analyze the learners. Who are these people? What they expect, what they need, what are their entry-level skills, how they come to us. Then we design and develop the environment. We choose the right methodology for them, and we take the technological tool there. It is an immersive technology, let's say very simple technology. And what we do, we implement and evaluate. This is education. And then we assess students. This is all about instructional design and education. So you see, first, as Dr. B said, we analyze target people. It is very important. Thank you.
I agree.
Thank you,
I remember.
Meltem.
Thank you so much for that, because it's true. I just the feedback, just quick. I remember when I was teaching a group of adult learners, and I had all of my resources and all of my skills, and yet these people were actually from the hood. They were from disadvantaged areas where they were dodging bullets and they were hurt. So sometimes we have to identify people's pain points. We have to identify what's the problem, what's the issue that people are having, and how can education make a difference? That's what I mean by transforming the way that we educate.
Absolutely agree with you. My experience working with migrant workers and refugees, English is a foreign language. Some good people would come into my classroom and a glaze over their eyes, and I knew I wasn't going to be teaching them English. So my main aim was just to let them know that I see them, that they're safe, they're part of my community, and that in time, when they're ready, we can learn English. So absolutely reaching the person's safety first, inclusion first. But I did want to pick up on Omino, because you were saying about personalized learning, and I know that there's a big drive to use artificial intelligence to help with personalized learning, with helping along the journey. Can that help with people who've been traumatized because of having to flee their country? Are we at that stage?
That's actually really interesting that you say that, Daniel. One of the projects that we're currently working with is with UNHCR. We're trying to connect refugee children with host countries and sort of pre-educate them before they come into the host country. What are their expectations? How do we actually meet them at their own level of learning? And this is currently specifically focused on the Ukrainian refugees coming into Poland and then being designated to different host countries. So I think that there is a lot of opportunities. I think kind of understanding the learners, exactly as Dr. B and Meltem was saying, is extremely important. But it's also identifying how do we do this at scale. And I think this is one of the biggest pivots that we have had. This is where the technology is the enabler. And I think this is where we can actually do something that we couldn't have done before. I feel a lot of the education and a lot of the patterns, or if you think about it as noise versus signals, have existed. I don't necessarily think a lot has changed. What has changed is the delivery format and the scale of it. And because it's happening at such a fast rate, it's really difficult to sort of gather momentum and say, okay, now as humanity, we are going to do this. And then really critically go behind it and put force behind it. And I think that's kind of what's needed. And, these large organizations such as UN, some of these larger NGOs, I really felt like figuring out a way to empower them and empowering educators on the ground level to actually be able to identify and connect these different dots to then be able to personalize learning at that scale makes a lot of sense. And I think that should be a lot of our focus as educators and people in this focus.
Thank you, Arno. Thank you for that. That brings me to Barry, because Barry, you were talking about digital twins, talking about Om was just talking about pre-educating people about where they're about to go. Digital twins might be able to play a role in that, but I want to expand on the concept of digital twins, because you said something interesting, that by creating digital twins, you can give people access to a level of experience of that who may never be able to get there otherwise. So I know in virtual reality, I've researched Hong Kong. I've never been there. I've visited certain. I've seen the Martin Luther King memorial site. There's places in virtual reality that I don't think I ever will. Not that I couldn't, but expensive. Too many things to choose from. Do you, that kind of digital twinning differently since this conversation now, and also with a view to maybe refugees or migrants or people transitioning? Is that being used? Is that what you have in mind? Or
there's a few layers. Thank you, Daniel. There's a few layers to that really, and one would be, I suppose, I spoke a little about how to connect with traditionally overlooked learners, that, you know, those who would maybe live in an area or a region that just wouldn't have a connection to a physical educational space. Young people or learners who would have a physical disability that would prevent them getting to an actual building, for example, as well. In addition to those learners who just have an anxiety or an additional challenge that would prevent them from getting to an education classroom, college, whatever that might be. I think this is where the idea of digital twinning, combined with collaboration, where, you know, a number of educators who are the top of their games, but from different countries, they could be joining forces and offering, you know, this content to digital classrooms. I think that's where it becomes really, really exciting. In addition to that, the idea of a digital twin, would be looking at young people, their skills at the moment, where they're going, what they need to be educating themselves in for the future, and have them build their own virtual classroom. You know, so we as educators, we would be the visitors to that space to do our job, and they would have full, they would be the ones opening the door to us. And I think that's kind of what I'm seeing as something that we should start talking and looking at as something that we should be offering, where young people are the creators of the learning space. And what does that look like? Something tells me it mightn't be a classroom.
I love that. Well, right. So if you give a bunch of the child the classroom of your dreams, how many of them will choose walls versus something fractal versus, you know, something just underwater? I'm very, very interested in that. But I want to have a slightly different question. You were talking about youth and we were talking about AI. And at this talk I gave in Amsterdam, questions, content. A lot of educators need good content for delivering with these immersive technologies or emerging technologies. And I said, I'm not worried about content for two reasons. One, artificial intelligence. And two, when the youth really get hold of this technology, when they really make it their own, but by this technology, I mean artificial intelligence and immersive technologies like virtual reality. When they grow up with it, and like my son, he's building my worlds every day a week, and it's his thing. We're going to have more content than we can shake a stick at. Now, here's the question, a very quick fire round. If you had to artificial intelligence again in terms of creation, who would you bet on? Omkar, youth or AI? Who's the greater creator?
I think creation is not the hard part, it's curation. So I would say that's where the human mind comes in. I mean, generative technology has been around for years now of different sort, but which of that is noise and which of it is signal? I think that's the crucial part. And I think at this stage, humans are the ones who can make that. Even ChatGPT can be very dumb many times. So, I would say still the human.
Yeah, I would agree for a fact. I would always put my money on the human, no doubt about it. I use AI technology within my courses, and yet I still have to create quality content in the first place. The human.
The human, love it. Okay, human. Anyone being on AI more than as the greater creator in the long run? Is anyone betting on AI? No, that's good
I would
news.
say AI-assisted humans
well,
are going to be the greatest creators.
Humans are going to be the biggest creators. Long live humans. We have a few minutes left. And I could keep on talking for each of you about specific things. I love these subjects. Very important conversations to have. On one round and see how many contributions. How education use these, I call emerging reality technologies, to close the digital divide? How can education use, because that's an opportunity the way I see it, how can use the emerging reality technologies to close the digital divide? Over to you, Omino.
Sorry, Daniel, you were breaking up, actually. I couldn't hear you.
Okay, I'll try and say it again. Hope you can hear me. How can education use emerging reality technology to close the digital divide? As an opportunity.
Education.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll write it in the chat.
Please.
How can we use emerging technologies to close the digital divide?
Oh, okay.
Bridge the digital. Okay.
I think that there is a huge opportunity here, but the opportunity of being able to, getting technology accessible to all communities at the same level, so we're not, somehow getting one side more prepared than the other side, I think is really important. I live between New York and Copenhagen, and one thing that I'm seeing is that there is a lot of, they have a huge amount of access to computers and technologies here, and their kids are so much more connected than we are. And then a lot of actually social platforms are used in a way that is really productive for the classroom. And this is something that we don't see in the States. I mean, I live, in New York most of my time, and we don't do that at all. I'm connected to several charter schools in the state, in New York City, and I can tell you, we lock everything down where there is such a huge sort of a barrier in terms of what one parts get to do and what the other parts doesn't get to do. So actually figuring out a way to make it more accessible and opening it up, I think is the biggest challenge. I don't necessarily think it's about technology in itself, because I think that already exists. It's not distributed evenly, and I think that's the biggest challenge that I see.
Yeah, thank you. We're coming up time, so 30-second last words, please, Dr. B. Unfortunately, we're at that time already, but please give me your takeaway from this, or your request for educators to consider as a takeaway.
I just say the takeaway is, how do we close the divide? By building a bridge. And we need to build a bridge in changing the way we educate.
Daniel?
Thank you so much. Meltem?
Can we close it with the John Dewey's saying, if we teach today as we taught yesterday, we rob our children of tomorrow? This is...
Meltem, that's beautiful. Yes.
John Dewey is beautiful.
That's a great takeaway.
Yeah.
Omkan?
Thank you.
I think we've covered most of what I wanted to say. I've said it before that I think to build the generation of tomorrow, we have to use the methods and the tools of tomorrow today. So that's, I would say, a message to educators who are listening and seeing this cast.
Stop building. Thank you, Omkan. Barry, how about you? What's your takeaway?
I think it's listening and looking at where young people are, looking at where learners are, seeing where they're going, what they're using, collaborating, skill sharing with other educators from different regions, getting it mixed up, looking and listening to other friends and colleagues. And also, you know, blue sky thinking, looking at big tech and seeing how they can help, you know, pull the ladder back down again. You've pulled it up, let's drop it back down. You know, free up the Oculus Go's, for example, and let those be recycled and reused across other regions, for example. So there's lots of ideas, but I think it's all around listening to where young people are and what they want, and collaborating and making new connections and friendships with educators across the world.
Wonderful. Thank you. Omino. Thank you, Barry.
Yeah.
What's your takeaway?
Yeah. Great point, Barry, by the way, everyone. I have to say that I think the biggest opportunity for us here is to build coalitions, build partnerships, and it really means everyone and every institution, not locking anyone out, and enabling every region to participate, everyone from regardless of whichever social background they come to. I think that's the biggest source of creativity, and that's where we need to focus.
Excellent. Thank you, Omino. Well, I've hugely enjoyed this panel, always too short. I think my takeaway would be to use the resource that are your learners. Your learners have this technology. They want to use it. Let them work with them, learn from the learners to learn what you need to work with them. So thank you so much for all of your contributions. Too short as always. Thanks for the opportunity, and thanks for the takeaways and the thoughts and sharing, and go forth, create, be good. Thank you.